Hello and good afternoon.
Hello, it's Sarah Moon calling.
Hey, what's going on with you?
Well, you know, it's a lovely day in Portland, Oregon. How about yourself?
It's a lovely day down here in Carolina. I swear we have so much of the same atmosphere, but just on opposite sides of the planet.
Do we? We might be along the same latitude line, right?
Yeah, that's true. Because it's so interesting you say that, because if I see a weather pattern out there in that area, it usually will make its way toward this area.
Really? All the way across, huh?
So we have like 3 or 4 days to get ready for it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we just had a bunch of thunderstorms, which is unusual for us. So I guess you can, hopefully you can avoid those. But
how can that be so unusual? Because, I mean, to me, thunderstorms is what really charges up a musician.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm originally from the Midwest where I'm used to that. But out here in Portland, they usually don't quite make it this far in. So
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've got to ask you,
yes.
How much did Ann Wilson play in your growing up?
Well, you know what's interesting is I keep getting compared to Heart, and people keep comparing the album to Heart.
Yes.
And even like the people who kind of first wrote my bios and wanted to include Heart. And I said, well, you know, I was definitely influenced by Heart growing up. My dad, you know, bought me Heart albums, and I listened to their music for sure. But they weren't a pivotal influence in this album, you know, but I am constantly getting compared.
Well, it's the strength of your voice. Your voice is, I mean, it's like when I first heard your voice, I went, oh my God, when was the last time we had a strong voice like this?
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, that's good feedback, because sometimes I feel like maybe it's a bit too much. It's a bit too strong. But no, Etta James is my my number one influence. And so she, with her insanely strong voice, is kind of impactful.
You know what? That explains why, you know, I feel that storyteller in you when you're singing your vocals. You're not just singing words. Right.
Yep. There's a story behind each song for sure. Whether it's my experience or someone else's, or something that's kind of just loosely based on reality. I try to be a storyteller with it, for sure.
Is that something that you picked up in the household as you grew up? Because there was music all around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My folks ran a sound company, and we toured with bands. So I've been surrounded by musicians since, basically since I was 2 years old. But I didn't grow up with a lot of songwriters. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of that around me, from top 40 bands to blues bands to whatever types of bands. But songwriting for me came a bit later in life.
One of the things, my wife came from the world of music. Her husband was a producer out in Los Angeles, and the one thing that she always told me about, when you're hanging out with other musicians or you're having dinner or a barbecue at someone's house, they're just like everybody else. They just happen to have music in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you ever been in one of those circles where you're looking around and you're going like, is this like 20 years from now, are we going to look back and like feel like we were surrounded by like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin? You know what I mean? Like, are these the next people that are going to just really pop off? It's kind of fun to think about.
All the time, because I'm always thinking about where is the next Laurel Canyon. It's got to happen somewhere.
Sure.
And I think Portland, and I also think Seattle. I think that there's a major movement that's about ready to pop, and the rest of the nation is going to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle's been so pivotal, especially back in grunge. But I really feel like Portland, there's a lot of really awesome artists here. People gravitate towards the city because it's big enough but small enough. It's a good home base that you can tour from it easily, and get up and down the West Coast especially. But they're unbelievable talent and unbelievable, like the city welcomes original music.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So in putting together the music, is it in an extended EP or is it a 8-cut album? How do you look at it?
I look at it as an album.
Yeah.
I feel like it's tough these days because I feel like people just want singles, but I try to do 7 or 8 songs per album. I've never been one to do like the 10 to 12 or more. I don't know. There's no real reason behind it. It just happens that way. And
yet what's so interesting is that when you go and you purchase music these days, it's not always the hit that everybody's buying. It's what they feel in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always fun to get that feedback when people start delving into the album and go like, I like this song, I like that song.
Yep.
And you can see what's going on in their lives, if you know them personally, and see like how that song could be impactful. So it makes me feel good about writing songs that people can connect with, or that, you know, they could maybe be inspired by, or help them through a tough time.
Well, it reminds me of the old album rock days where they would just drop the needle on the album and say, okay, here it is, enjoy. And then you would pick out your favorites in a heartbeat, and then you'd go buy it.
Yeah. Or you get the album so that you're like, okay, I got everything. Now I'm going to sit with these other songs, you know, like, yeah.
So what was the process like for you to put this collection of music together? Because, you know, so many times people say, well, I was given only, 2 weeks to be in the studio, or I was given only so many hours a day. What was the process?
Sure. So I write with a songwriting partner by the name of Brandon Cook. He's in a band called The Loyal Order. He's also in Black and Blue, if you know who those guys are. Mm-hmm. And he and we've always kind of played on and off with different projects over the years. We've probably been friends for about, 15 years or so. So some of these songs were things that we kind of came up with a few years ago. We worked together on my last album as well, which is more of an Americana roots rock album. And so I said, hey, I'm ready to put out a rock album. Let's get together, write some additional material. And then from there, we met up with a producer and had him kind of fine tune things for us. But, the process is just the two of us sitting down with some guitars and vocals and just kind of hashing out ideas. And we work really well together in the way that, I'll bring him maybe just like a chorus, and I'll have like lyrics and a melody and ask him to write chords around it. Or he'll bring me chords, ask me to write something around it. And then we just kind of fine tune together. It's like, okay, I want to go here vocally. He'll play some chords and I'll say, let's go in this direction, or yeah, let's keep that. And our motto is just to always say yes to every idea so that we flush it out. And if it doesn't work, then we quickly know, right? But we don't shut down any ideas from the get-go.
Oh my God. I said, when I go in the studio and stuff like that, what I'll do is I'll do a mix and I'll give it numbers. And then I'll go, then you sit down with your engineer and I'll go, okay, I think number 7 is the best one, but man, if we could just marry it with number 1 as well. But everything gets a number when it comes to each song.
Okay, so like a rating?
No, it gets it like, in other words, different cuts, because I'm a perfectionist. I'll get an idea right in the middle of an idea, and it's like, and we'll go, okay, we can stop. We're going to get a recording of this. This is it here. Then I'm going to let you explore, and then, so we would do just more numbers on it is what we would do, so I wouldn't ruin the original.
Cool. Yeah.
It's because I always believe that what's the story in building the song, and so I'm so turned on by stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a lot of life experience, right?
Oh my God, yes.
That's what does it for me.
You guys working together, that's exactly what song building is all about. It's not like going to Nashville and you go buy music. It's like you guys are physically building your songs.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I would love to sing someone else's songs as well if I was inspired by it. And I have. My first album, I took a song that I had nothing to do with, and it was one of the favorites, it was something that I wouldn't have written for myself. So, I'm open to all of it. I mean, I grew up singing in a choir where it was like, sheet music, you're handed somebody else's music for sure. So I enjoy both ways, but I do like the process of, emotionally releasing things that happen in life, or, again, whether it's my own personal, there's less personal on this album than people think, but, my first two were pretty personal.
So when you release the album, what's the next step? Because, I mean, are you going to take a small tour? Are you going to stay up there in the Pacific Northwest? What's happening?
Yeah, so we've been playing shows locally around the Portland area. We had a CD release show, and
nice.
Then just had, when was that? A week or two ago, we had another show. Just kind of doing some things here. We're working with a local promoter, Jay Fell, and just kind of seeing what happens next.
Yeah.
Performance is my main goal, though. So, whether it's a small tour or some fly out dates or whatever, we're open to it. And the band is ready. Like, everybody's seasoned players, everybody's used to touring. And so we'll just have to see where it manifests.
Yeah, because that's always got to be the first step of a great beginning, in the way that when the band is ready to go, it's, unlike where Toto, they were studio musicians, and now we got to go play live. What's going on here?
Right. Yeah. Well, we did a couple things where we're like getting a little crazy with, guitar tracks. We're like, oh, here's some 3 and 4 part harmonies. And so we did have to hire a second guitarist, a third guitarist in addition to myself to accommodate. So, it's been really fun. And then we do have horns and backup and harmony singers as well. So we have a pretty big band, when we want to be. I think for the CD release, I think we had 11 or 12 people on stage. So.
How was the growing period of when you go from when you've got the mixes right there inside the studio, and to me the best place to listen to music is in the front seat of your car or in the studio itself, but then you send it off for the final mix, that master. I mean, was there a big change in it, because for some reason they hear things that I don't hear, but they're able to do their magic?
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to work with an engineer by the name of Jaimeson Durr. He works with like Sammy Hagar. So he did like the Chicken Foot albums. He works with Nancy Wilson. He works with a lot of really impactful people in my life. And so I knew I was in good hands just based on the material that I had heard of his. So I was pretty hands-on with most of it. Myself and Brandon are pretty involved with all of the process. And we were just in awesome hands. Like, he sonically just put the album exactly where it exceeded my expectations. I gave him some parameters. I said, I'm really influenced by like Soundgarden. I want a certain, snappy tom. I want the heavy drums. There was some Aerosmith and Deep Purple, just a lot of different influences. And I really was like, I'm very different than Alanis Morissette, and I don't compare myself to her, but I really wanted to have that strong female-led sound where the vocals are first and foremost. And then there's so many layers of guitars and synth and everything else in there to kind of fill it in. And I just wanted it to sound live, but polished. And he was able to just do all of that. And then by the time it got to mastering, it didn't really change that much. It just brought it up another level. And I'm super pleased with how it turned out. It blew me out of the water when I heard it. I was like, wow, that sounds better than I could have imagined.
Well, I love the idea that it's not overcompressed, because we went through that era of music where everything had to be so smashed together. But man, this is a good ride.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you dig it. Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't want it to sound compressed or too overproduced, really.
Wow. Where can people go to find out more about you, the band, and we got to get you out of Portland. We got to get you onto that road. So how can they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think my website's probably a good place to start. Obviously, we're on Facebook as well, but Sarah Moon Music is my website. Okay.
So then, now when you do gain access to that very, very large role of being a major rocker, do you want us to call you Sarah Moon all the time, or are you going to go to Sarah? I mean, what happens with the name? Because you know how fans are.
Like Madonna or Cher.
Yeah.
The one name.
I'm gonna go see Sarah tonight, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many Sarahs on this planet. I don't know if it stands out enough, but whatever. Some people call me Sarah. Some people call me by my full name. I'm cool either way.
I love it. Please come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you, Sarah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me.
You bet. You be brilliant.
Wonderful. You have, an amazing day, and just. I don't know. I don't have anything like motivational like you do, but just, yeah.
I've got your music. That's motivational. I'm going to tell you that right now.
All right. Well, let me end the interview on a high note here by not saying anything cool.
Have a great day.